Crafting a Cuppa, and today I'm going to do a full length tutorial on the mystical mesh vest, which I'm wearing right now. So you can use any yarn you want. What we're going to need to do is take your chest measurement, and we're going to base most of the pattern, well, we are going to base it on your chest measurement, plus a bit of positive ease. So if I can try and squeeze this in, and when I stand up, I'll show you what mine looks like. Can't get off the chair. Oh Lord. It's a bit tricky to fit me in, but for this one, I added 6 centimetres onto my chest measurement. But I think for my next one, I'm going to try and see how long I can get it. Hopefully I can get it a bit longer, but who knows. I haven't got enough yarn. I really want it to be like a white cotton. So I've managed to find these in my stash. I've got 8 of them in total. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Walnut Tree Bamboo Cotton. It's quite thin, so I think I'm going to use a 4mm hook with mine. See how I go. But I think I am going to add, I think I'm going to add an extra 10 centimetres onto my chest measurement. Sorry, I don't know if you can see my face. I'm just standing here talking like this. So I think I'm going to add an extra 10 centimetres onto my chest measurement. So chest measurement, nice and easy. You literally just need to measure the widest part of your chest all the way around. Mine's usually 84, but I'm going to show you anyway. Where are we at? Yeah, I am at 84 centimetres for my chest area. So I'm going to add 10 centimetres onto that number, which is going to make it 94. So that means I need to work, you can do either a foundation double crochet to start off to 94 centimetres for me, or you can do a chain. It's up to you, doesn't really matter either way. I think I'm going to go with a foundation row because I like the way it looks. Yeah, I just like the way it looks. I think it looks a bit neater. So, let's get on with it. Okay, just before we get started, there's a couple of things you're going to need, not that much. Obviously your yarn and a hook, whatever one you want to use with your yarn. Stitch markers, scissors, little needle for weaving in your ends, and your tape measure. So hopefully you've got your measurement that you're working towards. My chest measurement is 84 centimetres and I've added 10 centimetres of positive ease. So my measurement is 94. Now I'm going to do a foundation double crochet. I'm not going to do it on video, but I do have a full tutorial on how to do a foundation double crochet, and I will link that in the description of the video. If you prefer, you can do a chain. I'd probably suggest to go up a hook size and keep it nice and loose so you don't end up with a bit of a curve going on. It's up to you, but whatever you do, you're going to need to get to your measurement, and you're going to need to have an odd number of stitches, an odd number of double crochets, or an odd number of foundation double crochets. So I'm going to meet you back here when you have your foundation row to the measurement of your chest plus whatever positive ease you want to add. I'm going for 10 centimetres. So I'll meet you back here when you've done that. Okay, so I now have my foundation double crochet to my measurement of 94 centimetres, and I've got an odd number of stitches. I think I might have gone a little bit over 94, but it don't matter. As long as you're close to the number, it does not matter. Okay, let me just set up my yarn because as usual, I'm not prepared. Oof. Okay, so now, what we are going to be doing is working this vest from the bottom up. It's going to be really easy. Literally, you can just sit there and watch a film, your favourite series. It's that mindless, this section. We're just going to be repeating the same row over and over again until you are happy with the length. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's going to class as a treble crochet and 1 chain. So we're going to turn our work, and then we're going to skip the next stitch. So that might look like this one right here, skip that stitch, but no, that is actually the base of the chain 5, okay? So we need to skip the next stitch and then go the next one with a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and put a treble crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip next stitch, treble crochet in the next stitch. And this is all we're going to be doing. Chain 1, skip stitch, treble crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip next stitch, treble crochet in the next stitch. Oh, hang on, I've lost my I can't think what you call it right now. Tension, that's the one. Chain 1, skip next stitch, treble crochet in your next stitch. Chain 1, skip next stitch, treble crochet in the next stitch. So keep doing this all the way along until you get to the end. Oh my gosh, look at all that. Ugh. I have got quite a lot of stitches. It's because I'm using a thin yarn. Why am I doing this to myself? I should have just gone to the yarn shop maybe. No, I shouldn't. No, I should use what's in my stash first. And I forgot I even had this. And I tell you what, it is lovely. It's bamboo cotton. It's really, really lovely and soft. I'm quite looking forward to seeing how it turns out. So yes, so basically all the way across, you're going to do treble crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, go in the next stitch. Keep doing that all the way across and I'll meet you right at the very end. Okay, so I'm right at the end of my row. Thank goodness I counted the right amount of stitches, because you know what it's like. Sometimes you miscalculate one and you're like, oh no, oh no, especially right at the beginning of your project. But no, everything's fine. I have got 2 stitches left. So I am going to chain 1 and put my final treble in the last stitch, which for me is the top of the chain 3, which I did to make my foundation double crochet. It's the top of the chain. And there we have it, the first official row. And do you know what? When I was going, oh, I've got so much to do, I actually made this really, really quickly. It's because of the stitch, isn't it? It's really, really not that bad. So this is going to be the next row, and this is the row that we're going to keep repeating until we are happy with the length of our vest. So exactly what we've just done pretty much. Chain 5, turn your work. Now instead of skipping stitches, we're going to be skipping chain spaces. So we're going to skip the next chain space and we're going to put a treble in the next stitch. And then chain 1, skip next chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip next chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. Do it again, chain 1, skip the chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. And you're just going to keep doing this all the way across the row and for every single row until you feel happy with the length. If you're like, what does she mean? How are you going to know? Basically, I will show you on the next clip, I suppose it will be, because you won't see me again until I am happy with the length. But basically, it's going to be like a big rectangle. And then you're just going to like kind of put it underneath your arms and bring it around you. Kind of like if you was about to wrap a towel underneath your arms. Like this is going to be sitting underneath your armpit area and it's just going to fall down. So when you're like, yeah, I quite like that, that is when you're going to stop. And then we're going to attach the straps. So yeah, chain 1, skip chain space, treble crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble crochet in the next stitch. That is how easy it is and how simple it is. You're just going to keep doing that. This is what it's going to look like a bunch of squares. Yeah, so that's it. You're literally just going to keep doing this row after row until you are happy with your length. So I'll meet you back here when I have a big rectangle of mesh stitch. Woohoo! I'm back again a little bit earlier than expected, but I just want to show you how we're going to finish off each row because I didn't explain that properly. So basically you've got your chain 5, that's the last bit. So your chain 5 is 1 treble and a chain to create the last window chain space. So you're going to go in the 4th chain of the chain 5. Basically all I do is just count 1 chain and then go in the next one. Just like that. And then place your final treble. Oh my gosh, that's a double. That's not a good start, is it? It's a treble, not a double. In the 4th chain to create that final chain space. There we are. And then you're just going to continue with your chain 5, turn, skip chain space, treble. Skip chain space, treble. Right, now I'll meet you back here when you're happy with the length. Okay, so I have been busy crocheting and I have crocheted quite a large rectangle. I've still got my yarn attached. Now I wanted mine to be quite long. Which way are we going? This way. Here we go. Here we go. I wanted a long one. I mean, I can't hardly fit mine in the screen. You're not going to see it when I try it. Well, I say try it on because it is literally like a rectangle. But I've gone for calf length. Hopefully. It seems like it's about right. Anyway, I'm happy with the length. So basically, to find out if you're happy with the length, what you're going to do is keep your yarn attached still. Keep it attached, which makes it a little bit awkward, I know. But we're just going to pop this on like underneath our arms. I would have to put it on so the yarn's that side. Hang on, let me just move my yarn over this way. Okay, so you're literally just going to just loosely wiggle it under your arms like so. And I can't quite fit all mine in because like I say, I've gone for calf length on mine. So yeah, I'm happy with my length. That now means I can proceed to the straps. So how we're going to do the straps. You're going to need a couple of stitch markers for this bit and you're going to need to keep it on. So, let's get my corner and a stitch marker and I'm going to come close to the camera and show you what I'm going to do. So when we start our straps, it is going to start from the edge and we're going to have a point here and we're going to kind of follow like what my top looks like actually. We're going to do decreases at each end and bring it in a bit smaller. So you need to decide where would you like your strap to start at this end. So I've got a bit of sunlight on me at the minute. I've got new blinds up, but I've got like 3 different blinds on 3 different windows and the gaps in between are causing rays of sunshine to come through my craft room. Not ideal, I know, but there's not really a lot I can do about that at the minute, not unless I turn around a bit. Nope, it's still there. So anyway, I'm babbling. So I go literally kind of where my top is already actually. I go just before my underarm. Doesn't matter whereabouts. So I am going to take a stitch marker. I'm going to look down and I think, yeah, I want it to start about here or here. I want to go for here, I think, actually. I'm not looking at myself in the camera when I'm doing this. I'm looking down and I'm thinking, yeah, I would be happy for that strap to start there. So I'm going to attach my stitch marker and then I'm just going to take this off of myself and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to count I'm kind of, oh no, hang on, I need to put it in a stitch. I've put it in a chain space. It needs to go in a stitch. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to put it in the stitch. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many stitches, including the one with the stitch marker, all the way to the edge. How many stitches there are there. And I'm going to come to the opposite side. And I'm going to count the exact same amount of stitches and place a stitch marker in this side. Okay? Okay, so I've got this end here with my stitch marker. I had 19 stitches. You might have different to that because you're using different yarn, different body shape. Doesn't matter, but I'm just telling you, I've got 19 stitches. So then I went all the way across to the opposite end and I counted 19 stitches from the end going in and placed my next stitch marker. And now we're ready to start making the front straps. Okay, so you should still have your yarn attached at one end, and that is where we are going to pick up and start working the front straps. Just got a massive loop on mine, so I didn't pull no stitches out when I was trying it on. Okay, right, so for this strap, we're going to work it a little bit different to the opposite strap. But don't worry, because I'm going to go through every single stage with you. So what we are going to do, for this one, we are going to chain 4 and then we're going to turn our work. So that's a chain 4, not a chain 5 for this one, that's a chain 4. So now we are just going to put trebles in each stitch. So we're going to put a treble in this one, in your next stitch. Then you're going to chain 1 and then put a treble in the next stitch. Oh, hang on, my yarn's gone all splitty. Let's try that again. Treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, treble in the next stitch. Just basically what we've been doing. But instead of starting with a chain 5 of this one, we start with a chain 4 because we're going to decrease it. Bit hard to see because I've got all this underneath me. There you go, that's a bit better. So yeah, keep doing your chain 1, treble in the next stitch, chain 1, treble in the next stitch, skipping over those chain spaces, chain 1, and then you will place your final treble in the stitch with your stitch marker in it. So I'll meet you back here when you have done your first row. Okay, so I am right at the end of my row and I have got to put a treble crochet in the stitch with my stitch marker in it. Oh, there we go. Like so. Okay, so row 2 is going to start again with a chain 4. Not a chain 5, it's a chain 4 because this is going to be a decrease row. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to turn our work, skip the next chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. And again, chain 1, skip chain space, treble in next stitch. Keep doing that all the way across. And I'll meet you back here when we get to the final treble and the chain 4. Looks like a triangle at the end there. So I'll meet you back here when we get to that part, right at the end. Right, so I'm at the end. I've got 1 treble left and then I've got the chain 4. So what we're going to do is we are going to skip this treble here and we are going to place a treble in the top of the chain 4. So from your other stitch that you've just done, make sure that you've chained 1. So you do a treble, chain 1, and then you're ready to place your final treble in the top of the chain 4. We are not going in the treble, you're going in the top of the chain 4. And that then decreases that. Oh, hang on, I've not quite gone through it properly. Yeah, that's better. And there we go. That is what it should look like. So, going to do the same thing again. Chain 4, turn, skip the next chain and then place a treble in the next stitch, chain 1, skip next chain space, treble in the next stitch. I think I said skip chain, didn't I, a minute ago? I meant chain space. Just basically following the same stitch pattern. So keep doing this until you reach the end of the row, which is going to be exactly like it was a minute ago, where you have your treble and your chain 4. So I'll meet you back here in a minute. So I'm right at the end of the row again. I've got one treble left. Well, I've got a chain space, a treble, and then a chain 4 attached to that treble. So what we're going to do is skip the chain space, skip the treble, and place our final treble in the top of the chain 4. So make sure you chain 1 before you do that, and then place your last treble in the top of the chain 4. I'm going to do it one more time, because we're going to keep, basically, you're going to keep decreasing until you're happy with the number of decreases. And also we need to hold it up against ourselves in a bit to check the length of the strap, but I'll go through that in a second. I'm just going to do one more decrease row with you. So chain 4, remember, not a chain 5, it's a chain 4. Turn your work, skip the next chain space, and put a treble crochet in the next stitch, and then you can go back to your normal pattern of chain 1, skip chain space, treble in next stitch, and then keep doing that all the way across until you get to the near the end of the row, isn't it? It's not quite right at the end of the row, it's like near the end of the row. Just need to sort mine out a bit. Where are we? Oh, hang on, I've twisted it too far. It's hard when it gets big. Obviously I'm doing mine calf length, so I'm having to keep turning it. I'm getting a bit tangled up. So yeah, treble in stitch, skip chain space, chain 1, treble in your next stitch, and I'll meet you back here when you get to the end of the row. Right, so I'm right at the end of the row again. I've got a chain space, a treble, and a chain 4. So I'm just going to skip the chain space, skip the treble, and go on the top of the chain 4 with my treble. But before you do that, you need to make sure you chain 1, then skip the chain space and the treble, and then go on the top of the chain 4 with your final treble. So those, what you've been doing, are the decrease rows. Ooh, let me just see if I can just straighten this out a minute. So far we've not really done that many, but you can start to see that it is sloping a little bit. So what we're going to do is keep doing the decrease rows until you're happy with the decreases, at the same time keeping an eye on the length. Now, how long you make your strap is totally up to you. I went for 20 centimetres because I held it up against myself again and put it under my arms and just kept testing the strap out. Now I knew that I didn't want my strap to start directly underneath my underarm. I wanted it to hang looser. So just say that's my underarm there, and that's the beginning, isn't it, of where I started my straps. I kind of had it so my underarm was here and like the strap started down here. So if you, I'd say probably aim for 20 centimetres and see how you feel. I'm going to be showing you in a second anyway how I hold it up against myself and check, because you're going to want the top of this front strap to be sitting right in the center of your shoulder. So that's the best way to look at it, really. I think it's nice with a bit of extra hang at the bottom, so it's not right underneath your armpit, it's a bit looser. And for me, that measurement was 20 centimeters. So you're just gonna like measure. I kept my stitch marker in because that can help. You don't have to, but that just helped with measuring. At the minute, I'm at 7 centimeters. So I'm going to keep decreasing now, and I'm going to come back to you when I'm happy with the amount of decreases I have, because then after that, we're just going to keep working up our normal stitch pattern. So I'll meet you back here when I'm happy with my amount of decreases that I've made. Okay, so I have now decided that I'm going to stop decreasing because I'm getting close to my 20 centimeter mark that I was aiming for. And I want to finish it with a couple of normal regular rows because it makes it easier when you come to seam your sleeves together. Well, not sleeves, straps. I know what I mean. Hopefully you do too. So basically, let me just see where we're at with my naughty tape measure. So I'm about 18 centimeters at the moment. Just remember, I know I said 20 centimeters, but you can do it whatever length you want. Just hold it up against yourself and make sure that this part is sitting in the center of your shoulder. And then you can get an idea of how big your armhole is going to be. I liked it to be loose because that was just my personal preference. So yeah. Right, so this is for now. If you've decided that you're done with your decrease rounds, this is what you do next. Just zooming in a little bit. Where's my hook? Okay, so once you're finished with your decrease rounds, you're now going to go back to a chain 5. So chain 5. Turn your work. Just as normal, skip the next chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble and next stitch. Oh, I'm getting all hooked up. Hang on. So yeah, we're just going to keep doing the same stitch pattern across the row again. Oh, I've done it again there. Oh my goodness. In general, this yarn has been lovely to work with, but if you accidentally do split it, that's it. It's game over. But in general, it's been lovely to work with. It's got an absolutely gorgeous drape. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's bamboo cotton. So yeah, keep going. We're going to end this row exactly the same as what we have been doing on all the previous rows so far. And I'm there now. So you're going to skip your final chain space, treble, and then put your final treble into the top of the chain 4. Oh look, I've done it again. It's me saying, oh, this yarn hasn't been that bad in general. And now it's playing me up. There we go. So now I've just got a regular row with my trebles because basically we started with a chain 5 at the end of the row instead of a chain 4. And then now you're just going to do your normal regular stitch that you've been doing throughout the whole body part. Okay, because we've got the chain 5 at the end here now, so you will skip the 5th chain and go into the 4th chain of the hook. But I'm going to do another row and show you. Chain 5, turn your work, skip chain space, and then put a treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble in the next stitch, and just keep doing this all the way to the end of the row. trying not to split my yarn. I feel like the pressure is on now. But I said that it hasn't actually been that bad, and then it's just played me up like 2 or 3 times. Ah! So he did it again. Okay, so I'm coming up near the end of my row. So I've got left what we have had, a chain space, a treble, and then I've got another chain space because I've got my chain 5 there. So I'm just going to do what we normally would do on the body part, and that is go into the next treble with a treble, chain 1, and then skip the first chain and go into the 4th chain from the previous row. You're just going to keep continuing those rows until you're happy with the length. Now I'm going to hold mine up against me in the next section of this video so you can get an idea of what on earth I've been talking about. Okay, so far I've been working on one front strap, and this is what I've got at the moment. So I'm just going to like put it on me. It is a little tricky, I'm not going to lie. Kind of like putting a towel on really, isn't it? So, that goes underneath my arm. Let me just bring this bit round here like so. Okay, so what you need to do, let me come closer. I'm going to chop my head off, but that's okay because I'm not here to look at my head. We're here to look at this strap. So what you need to do when you're trying it on is put this strap literally in the centre of your shoulder, like just like that, and then let it hang. And then this is what I mean by I didn't want this bit to start right up here. I wanted it to have like a looser effect. That's why I went for 20 centimetres. Now normally I think if I go underneath my arm for my other tops, it's about 14 centimetres for me. But I didn't want it like that for this. I wanted it to be loose and start lower. So for me, that's 20 centimetres is a good measurement. And I am happy with my front strap and how it sits at the underarm. Oh, it's gonna look good. Yeah. So yeah, now once you're happy, we can move on to the second front strap. This side. I'm kidding, I'm going to drop it. Oh no, oh, my bracelet's getting caught. That's never good, is it? Don't want to be pulling blooming stitches out. Terrible for that. I get stuck on doors all the time. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, so because I'm happy with the length of my front strap, I can now fasten off, and I'm going to leave a long tail for seaming. I'm going to do it with all my straps, although technically I only really need to do it for 2, but yeah. Just leave a long tail, just helps with weaving in ends more than anything. Have less ends to weave in. Just find my scissors. Just put a little knot in that one. Okay, I'm also going to keep my stitch marker in because it can help when it comes to the placement of the back straps. Don't worry if you've took it out, you can still work out where you started and replace it if you want to. I just find visually it helps when I come to working out where my back straps are going to go. Right, second front strap. What we're going to do is find that second stitch marker, and we are going to start from the stitch marker and work our way out. Now because we're doing that, that means that this front strap is going to be different to how we've just made our first front strap. But don't worry, because once again, I will be going through everything that you need to know. I need to turn my work, hang on, I've got it the wrong way round. So yeah, you're going to be starting from the stitch marker and working your way out. Okay. Just make a slip knot. So attach your yarn through the same stitch as the stitch marker with a slip stitch. Okay, now we're going to chain 5 and that is chain 5, because last time we started with chain 4 on the other side. We're not doing chain 4 on this one, we're doing chain 5. You're going to skip the next chain space and go in the next stitch with a treble crochet, and then chain 1, skip chain space, go in the next stitch with a treble crochet, chain 1, skip next chain space, go in next stitch with a treble crochet, and keep doing that all the way across until you have 2 stitches remaining. So keep going all the way across here and then stop on this one right here, and then so you've got these 2 remaining, and then I'll show you what to do. Okay, so I'm right at the end of my row, and I've got 2 stitches left. One of them is a normal treble and the other one is a chain 5. So I'm going to do my final chain, yarn over twice, and what we're going to do is we are going to join these 2 stitches together doing a treble crochet 2 together. So yarn over twice and go through the first stitch and pull up a loop. Got 4 loops on your hook now. You're going to yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through the next 2 loops. You've got 2 loops on your hook. Now we need to pick up the final stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice, and then we're going to go in the 4th chain of the chain 5. So skip the first chain, go in the 4th one and pull up a loop. Just wiggle that in there. Pull up a loop. Now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through the first 2, which leaves you with 4 loops. Yarn over, go through the next 2. That leaves you with 3 loops. And now you're just going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And that is your treble crochet 2 together. I always have to think about it when I'm saying that. Treble crochet 2 together. Okay, row 2. Chain 5 and turn your work. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to skip over this treble crochet 2 together that we've just done. You can see there's 2 stitches there, but we're just going to pretend that that is just 1 stitch. Push it together, it's 1 stitch. So you're going to skip this chain and you're going to put your next treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble in the next stitch, chain 1, skip chain space, treble in the next stitch, and keep doing this all the way across the row until you have 2 stitches remaining, which will be your chain, or it'll be a treble and a chain 5, just like we've just done right now, or we've just had right now. So I'll meet you back here when you get to the end of your row. Okay, so I have got 2 stitches remaining. One is a treble and one is a chain 5. So what we're going to do is another treble crochet 2 together. So I'm going to do my final chain 1 and then yarn over twice, go through the first stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 stitches, yarn over and go through the next 2 stitches. Now I'm going to yarn over and go in the 4th chain of the chain 5 and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through my first 2 loops. Was I saying stitches a minute ago? I think I was. I meant loops. Yeah, I meant loops. Yarn over, go through next 2 loops, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And there we go. So I'm going to do it with you again, one more time, and then you're just going to keep doing the same amount of decreased rows as what you already have on the other side. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, did I count the chain spaces? Yeah, I'll have a look at that in a minute. But anyway, let's do another row together. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn our work. skip the treble crochet 2 together, skip the next chain and put your next treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble in next stitch, chain 1, skip chain space, treble in next stitch, and then keep doing that until you reach the end of the row and you've got 2 stitches remaining. So I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, I'm at the end again, so I'm going to place another treble crochet 2 together. So I've done my chain 1 already. I'm going to yarn over and go in my first stitch. Well, yarn over twice, go in the first stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 2 stitches. Yarn over, go through the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to include the final stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice and go in the 4th chain of the chain 5, wiggle that in there, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 stitches, yarn over, go through the next 2 stitches, yarn over and go through all 3 stitches. And that is the decrease row. So you're just going to keep repeating that same row until you have the same amount of decrease rows that you did on your other strap. Now I know that I added 2 regular rows to the top of my front strap, so I know to count like 2 down. So then just count all these rows right up to my little stitch marker here, and that's how many decrease rows I need to make sure I have on this side. So I'm going to meet you back here when you have the same amount of decrease rows, and I'll show you how to add your regular rows on top. Right, so I've now added the same amount of decrease rows to my second strap. I now know that I need to add just 2 regular rows because that's how I ended mine. Yours might be different, so don't worry if you're like, 2? What? Because we're all using different yarns, we've got different body shapes, different hooks. But for me, I need to add 2 regular rows onto my strap. So, just nice and easy. Very simple. Chain 5. Turn, skip your treble crochet 2 together and the next chain, and then go in the next stitch with a treble. And we're just going to keep doing our regular normal pattern of chain 1, skip chain space, treble in the next stitch, and keep doing that all the way to the end. And this time you're not going to do treble crochet 2 together at the end. You're just going to end it normally, like how you normally do. So don't worry about thinking, oh, I need to stop 2 stitches before, because you don't. I'm going to put a regular treble in my second from last stitch, chain 1, and put 1 regular treble in the chain 4 of the chain 5. So just skip the first chain and go in the next one with your treble. And that's it. I need to do 1 more row, so I'm just going to chain 5. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And then when I turn my work for this row, all my stitches are normal, because before we were skipping the treble crochet 2 together. Well, that's not there now. So it's just normal row. So skip your chain space, treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble. Oh, it's because I was looking at the camera to make sure that my hands weren't like here. I like to do that, and then I'm like, oh, bring it back. So yeah, regular stitch pattern all the way across to the end. And remember, when you fasten off, to leave a long tail for seaming. Nearly there. Probably best to double check that you have got the same amount of rows each side for both straps, and the same amount of chain spaces, because that will tell you whether or not you've done the same amount of decrease rows or not. So yeah, fasten off, leave a long tail for sewing. I'm just going to compare my two front straps and make sure that I do have the same amount of rows and the same amount of chain spaces on my last row. Okay, right, now we need to do the placement of the back straps. So what you need to do is lay your panel out completely flat, and this is where it comes in handy to keep your stitch markers in where you put your front straps, because what you need to do is count the stitches in between these two stitch markers, and we need to find the center stitch so we can place a stitch marker in it. Now if you count them and you don't have a center stitch, then you'll have to go in the center chain space instead. Either one is going to be fine, okay? So I am now going to count my stitches and I'm going to work out the center stitch. So I will be back in a moment. Okay, so I've just counted my stitches and I've got 52. Now if you end up with an even number, that means you will not have a center stitch. You're going to have to do a center chain space instead, which is fine. If you've got an odd number, so just say I had 25, for example. So what I would do, or not 25, just say I had 49 stitches in between here. I can't remember what I just said I had now. I forgot what number it is. I feel like I said 52. But anyway, this is an example of having an odd number. So if you've got an odd number, so just say there's 49 stitches in between here. Take one stitch away, which will make it 48. Then divide that number by 2. So 48 divided by 2 is 24. If I then add that one back on that I took away, it's going to make it 25, which would mean stitch 25 is my middle stitch. But I don't have that, I've got an even number. So I need to count my chain spaces now, and hopefully they're odd. It better be odd, otherwise I'm going to cry. So I'll come back in a minute. Okay, so I've counted my chain spaces because I've got 52 stitches, so I cannot have a middle stitch. I won't have a middle stitch. If I went in one of them, it's going to be slightly one side or the other. I've counted my chain spaces and I have 51 chain spaces. So I'm going to use the same concept of what I've just told you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minus 1 from 50, and that gives me, oh, sorry everybody, I'm being so confusing, I know. I'm going to minus 1 from 51, and that gives me the number 50. Then I'm going to divide it by 2, and that gives me 25. And then I'm going to add that 1 back on, and that is 26. So I need to count my chain spaces to number 26, and I'm going to put my stitch marker in number 26, and that should be my center stitch marker. There we go. And the exact same thing applies if you've got an odd number of stitches. But I'm having to use my chain spaces because I don't have an odd number of stitches. I hope that wasn't too confusing. So I'm now going to count to chain space 26, I think I just said. So yeah, I'm now going to count to mine and add my stitch marker in the center. Okay, so my stitch marker is in my 26th chain space because I only had odd chain spaces and not stitches. If you've got odd stitches, then you're going to put it in your center stitch, not the chain space. And that means I should have 25 stitches either side of my number 26 chain space, which I do. Jolly good. That means that is in the center. Lovely job. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of stitch markers again. Now you need to know your number of stitches of your front straps. So remember when you first tried it on and you decided where you wanted your straps to sit? For me, I had counted 19 stitches across. So I now need to do the same thing for this back stitch marker here. I need to count 19 stitches across. So let me just zoom in a minute. It's a bit slow going, but here we go. Here we go. Zooming in. Okay, so if your stitch marker is in a stitch, not the chain space, but a stitch, then you will count the stitches either side of that stitch in the middle. You will not be using that, okay? So you will need to start counting from the next stitch along this side and then the next stitch along on the other side. Do not count the stitch with the stitch marker in it as stitch number 1, okay? Now, if you are in a chain space like me, then you're just going to count the next stitch along, okay, because we're in a chain space. So for me, I need to count the stitches now and not the chain spaces, and I had 19 stitches. So I'm going to start this side of my stitch marker and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And I am going to place my stitch marker in the 19th stitch. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I'm in a chain space, so I'm counting the next stitch along. Remember, if you are in a stitch, you're going to count the stitch next to it as number 1. So, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm having this thing where I'm thinking, was it 19? Like, I literally haven't double checked, but I feel like it was 19. Better be 19 after I've just done all this talking. I'm starting to freak out now. I think it is 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yes, it is. It is right. Jolly good. We just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I mean, you could probably take these stitch markers out of here now, out of your front strap ones. You can now remove these once you've got these placed. Otherwise, you might get a bit confused having all these stitch markers. So front strap stitch markers can come out once back stitch. I can't get none of my words out right. Back strap stitch markers are in place, so the front ones can now come out. I think I need to go have a coffee. I haven't had one yet. I had a cup of tea. I always have a cup of tea in the morning, and then mid-morning I like a cup of coffee with some giant barbecue corn from Lidl. Oh my goodness, what is that? I just can't stop eating it. I cannot stop eating it. I might have to go take a little break now and have some, and then we're going to tackle back straps. Okay, so I've had my coffee, I've had my corn, and I'm raring to go for these back straps. Right, so what we're going to do is you're going to take a look at where you joined in your front strap. And that first row needs to be right side facing. Now I can see my first row is currently wrong side facing. So I need to just flip mine around, because we need to start working with the front row. The first row of your front straps right side facing, okay? And then we are going to start from this stitch marker on the right, and we're going to work towards the centre. Okay, so I'm going to get my yarn ready. So remember, we are starting in the right stitch marker towards the centre, the right one first. And basically what we're going to be doing is exactly the same as what we just done on our last front strap. Exactly the same. Well, I say exactly the same. Obviously, you're going to have to stop at one of your stitches, but that's all right. We'll get there in a minute. So, same stitch as your stitch marker. Attach your yarn with a slip stitch. And then chain 5. And then skip the next chain space and place a treble in the next stitch. chain 1, skip next chain space and put a treble in the next stitch, chain 1. I'm sure you know what you're doing here because we've pretty much done it throughout the entire pattern. So we're just doing our normal mesh stitch until we reach 2 stitches away from the stitch marker. So if you're in a chain space, it's just going to be the stitch right before, well, the last 2 stitches right before the chain space. And if your stitch marker is in a stitch, it's going to be the last 2 stitches before the stitch marker stitch. So bad at explaining things. Do you know what I'm saying? I hope you do, because I'm so bad at explaining things. I'm overthinking it. So if you're in a stitch and you've got your stitch marker in the stitch, you are going to stop 2 stitches before that stitch. Oh, the postman's here. Is he coming for me? He might be. So basically, keep going until you have 2 stitches left before your stitch marker. I'm just going to get the door. Okay, so I now have 2 stitches remaining before my stitch marker. So we're going to do the treble crochet 2 together in those last remaining stitches. So make sure you've chained 1 before you do your treble crochet 2 together. Yarn over twice and go in the first stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2 stitches. Yarn over and go through the next 2 stitches. And now we're going to go and pick up the last stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice. Come over to the last stitch, insert your hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through the next 2 stitches. Loops, sorry. Yarn over, go through the next 2 loops, and yarn over and go through the last 3 loops. So we're just doing exactly the same as what we've just done on the other front strap. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lost count during that one. Turn your work, which is getting a little awkward because mine is super long. And then skip over that treble crochet 2 together and your next chain space and put your next treble in the next stitch. And then carry on with the regular mesh stitch. And then keep going all the way across the row until 2 stitches remain at the end of the row. So I'll meet you back here when we get there. So I'm at the end of my row. I've got 2 stitches left. So I'm going to chain 1 and then place a treble crochet 2 together. But I'm going to use the 4th chain on this one. It's not actually a stitch, just like what we've been doing. So yeah, I'm pretty certain you know what you're doing for this one because you've just done it for an entire front strap. So keep adding the same amount of decreased rows that you added for your front strap. So for me, that's 10 rows. And then you're going to add your normal rows after that, however many you had added. Sorry. I'll meet you back here when I've done my decreased rows and just go over the regular rows one more time. Hey, might as well. So I'll meet you back here when I've done all my decreased rows. So I've now added on the same amount of decreased rows as my front strap. I've also double checked and I've got the same amount of chain spaces as my front rows because you're going to need the exact same amount. If you haven't, that means you haven't counted your stitches right on your back strap. And remember, when you're counting the chain spaces on here, this stitch here, your treble crochet 2 together, counts as 1. So you'll start counting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I just need to add my final rows, my final regular rows. So I'm going to chain 5, turn my work, skip over the treble crochet 2 together and the next chain space, and just go in the next stitch with a treble, chain, oh, I'll come out, chain 1, skip chain space, go in the next stitch with a treble, and then we're just going to do that all the way to the end. We're not going to stop 2 stitches before the end and place a treble crochet 2 together. We're not doing that now. You're just going to put a treble in every single stitch. And then when you get to the end, your last treble is going to go in the 4th chain of the chain 5 from the previous row. There. Now I have one more row of a regular mesh stitch to do, and then that is my first back strap done. I will fasten off and then move on to the next one. If you forgot to leave a long tail on your front straps, you can redeem yourself here and leave a long tail on the back straps. I'm not going to do that because I did remember. I always forget and I snip it and I'm like, oh, more ends to weave. But I've remembered this time, I've been good. So yes, I'll meet you back here when we've done our back strap, and then we're going to move on to the other one. And we are so close to finishing now, so close. Okay, so I've got one more back strap to add and then we are done. So this is where my centre stitch marker is. I'm going to take this one out now from the back strap that I've just done because I don't need it in there no more. And then that will then leave us with these 2 stitch markers, and that is where the final back strap is going to go. So we are now going to do this back strap exactly the same as how we did the first front strap, the one where we was chaining 4 instead of chaining 5. I will go over a little bit with you just to give your memory a little jog. So remember, you're not going in the stitch with the stitch marker, you are going in the stitch right after the stitch marker. So this is my centre one, okay? We are working towards this edge here. Well, I say edge, but that will be like your back edge on the left hand side, kind of, yeah. So starting from that centre stitch marker, attach your stitch in the next stitch after. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Need a bit at a time. That'll do, I think. So next stitch after the stitch marker, attach your yarn with a slip stitch. And then remember, for the decrease rows, we are chaining 4, not 5, okay? So chain 4, skip the next chain space and go into your next stitch with a treble. And from here until the end of the row, you're going to do your regular mesh stitch that you've been doing. So that's chain 1, skip chain space, treble and next stitch. All the way across to the next stitch marker. So I'll meet you back here when you've reached your stitch marker. So I have now reached the stitch with the stitch marker in it, and I'm literally just going to chain 1, which I've already done. So chain 1 and place my final treble in the stitch with the stitch marker. I'm going to take this out now because I don't need it in there no more. Plus I haven't put it through my stitch very well, so putting a stitch in there would have been a bit of a nightmare. So final treble goes in the stitch with the stitch marker, although I've just took mine out. Next row, chain 4, remember? Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, turn your work, and then skip the next chain space and go in the next stitch with a treble. Chain 1, skip chain space, next stitch treble, keep doing this, all the way across. Oh, I've picked up the wrong bit. Keep doing that all the way across until you get near the end of your row, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I am near the end of my row. What I have left is a chain space, a treble, and the chain 4. So what we're going to do is do a chain 1, which I've already done because I just do it without thinking half the time. So yeah, chain 1, skip the chain space and skip the last stitch, that last treble there, and you're going to place a treble in the top of the chain 4. You're like, oh yeah, I remember. So that is your decrease row. We are going to keep doing that until you have the same amount of decrease rows as what you have on all your other straps. For me, that was 10 decrease rows. So I will meet you back here when we've done the decrease rows, and then we'll do the regular stitch pattern again just to finish off that final strap. All we've got left after that is seaming the straps together and weaving in the few little ends that you might have. And then it's done. Woohoo! Right, so I have now added the same amount of decrease rows to my final strap. I've got 2 regular rows to add on, so I'm going to do those with you guys. Oh no, what am I doing? This thing is huge now. But we're nearly done. Last 2 rows for me, and then just seaming together, which doesn't take long at all. So, last row, well, the next row, after you've done your decrease rows, you're going to chain 5. Going back to chain 5 now, no more chain 4s. So chain 5, turn your work. Oh, mine's so big, hang on. I can't even fit it on the table. It's all just kind of hanging everywhere, but because it's white, I'm trying to be so careful with it. I'm a bit scared that I'm going to get this stained because I always do. But someone suggested to me over on TikTok that I should do a white one, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. So here we are. So I didn't even say what I was doing then, did I, Lurt? I skipped my chain space and put a treble in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip chain space, treble in the next stitch. But I'm sure you know this already. So just keep doing your mesh stitch all the way along. Until we get near the end. I'm almost there. So yeah, we are now at the end of our final decrease row, which was on the previous row. And what we have left is the chain space, the treble, and the chain 4. So for the last time, we are going to skip the chain space, skip the treble, and go into the top of the chain 4 with our final treble. Now I know that I should have 8 chain spaces now. I'm just going to count them and double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. That's perfect. So that means all of my straps are going to line up because they all have the same amount of chain spaces. So I've just got one more row to do. So I'm going to chain 5. Remember, it's not chain 4 anymore. It's now chain 5. And now I've gone back to my regular mesh stitch. So this is my final row before seaming. Because I've used the same colour, I literally just have my strap ends to weave in, and then I'm done. And I'm coming to the end of my row. I'm just going to end it normally now. So I've got my 2 stitches, that's fine. I'm going to skip my next chain space and go in the next stitch with a treble. chain 1, skip chain space and go in the 4th chain with my final treble. And there we go. I'm going to fasten off. Almost done. I'm going to take out my stitch marker because I don't need that no more. That's done and dusted. Right, next is seaming. I've got to try and work out how on earth I'm going to fit it all in the screen because my vest is so big. Okay, so I have managed to just about fit it in the screen. So this is what your top half should look like with your straps. Just like wavy mountains, sort of. So lay your top or your vest out like this, but have it so it's right side facing up. Now it doesn't matter which side is right side and which side is wrong side. You get to pick. What I have done, because I like the way it looks, is my foundation row that we did at the bottom, I have chose to have that forward facing. So that is my right side. So that's what I'm going with. So lay your vest right side facing up. And what we're basically going to have to do is like fold this bit over to here. And then eventually this bit will come over to here. And we are just going to seam this bit and this bit. So technically, because your top or vest is right side facing up, when we fold this bit over to here, this is going to be the wrong side. So we're going to do our seam on the wrong side, and then when we turn it back out again to the right side, the seam will be on the inside. So I'm scared mine's going to fall off the table. I think I need to put a box on it. Let me just pull my pieces up a minute. There we go. Look how long. Look, I've got all this at the bottom. Well, it's hard to tell really, but it's very long. Very, very long. Okay, so I'm going to go with this side first. I've folded it over. And then I'm going to zoom in and show you how to seam. Hopefully you've left a long tail for seaming. You can seam this however you want, by the way. I am going to seam mine with a single crochet, but you can use a needle if you prefer. I'm using a single crochet. The only reason why is because it's going to leave a bit of a bulky seam, and it just makes it easy when I'm putting it on to go, oh, which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side, because sometimes it can be a little tricky to tell. So I just literally look at the inside of my seam and go, ah, yeah, there's a single crochet bit. That's the inside. Okay, so I've got my long tail, which is right here. So what I'm going to do, just to get the ball rolling, because I'm not going to be able to do a proper single crochet at the minute because my yarn is still attached. But that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the very first stitch on the front piece with my long, it's got my long bit of yarn in it. Yours might not have it on this bit, it might be on this bit instead, on the back piece. If it is, then still just do the same thing, it's absolutely fine. Just going to put my hook through the first stitch, and then I'm going to put it through the first stitch on the back piece, which for me is going to be the chain 4 of the chain 5. So I'm going to find the 4th chain, I'm going to put my hook through that, and just to get the ball rolling, I'm going to kind of like slip stitch to get this bit of yarn through the front. So I'm going to come and yarn over, oh, a bit high, sorry. I'm going to yarn over and just pull that yarn through both of these stitches, and then just slip stitch like that. So now I'm going to go through the chain space. We're going to go through the stitch, then the chain space, then the stitch, then the chain space. So chain space on the front panel and chain space on the back panel. Put my hook through both of those. I'm going to pull through the yarn, and this time I'm going to do a single crochet. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through the stitch this time on both panels and do a single crochet, pulling it through both panels. Next up is the chain space. Make sure you don't just go through the stitches, that you actually go through the chain spaces as well. Next one is stitch, and just do single crochets all the way across. Just making sure I'm not missing out those chain spaces. Otherwise it might get a bit bunched up looking. Nice and easy. I say that, but many times I've done this and when I get to the end, they don't line up. And I'm like, what have I done? Because sometimes it can be a little confusing to make sure you're going in the right stitch or the right chain space on the back panel. I don't mind admitting that I get things wrong all the time. Right, I'm getting near the end. I think they're lining up, which is jolly good because I don't really want to do it again. It's looking good, looking good. Get through this stitch and this stitch. Oop. And then chain space, final chain space, and then the final stitch. For me, on my front panel, it is the chain 5, so I need to go in the chain 4 or the 4th chain and then go through the final stitch on the back panel and do my final single crochet. Aha! And then I'm just going to, oh heck, cool, look how much I had left. I've just pulled that through. I thought I had a bit more left on that. Oh, hang on. I told you everything goes wrong, didn't I? I'm going to have to undo that a second because I don't quite know what I've done. Ah. Now what have I done? Awesome. Okay, I've undone a couple of stitches by mistake. It's my fault. I pulled it right through. I didn't realise that my tail was actually quite short. Let's go through my final chain space again. All I wanted to do was secure it. At least now I know that my tail's quite short. Feels shorter this time now. Oh my goodness. It's okay. It'll be fine. Right, single crochet, last one. Single crochet. We just pull that up a little bit just to secure it with a knot. Not pull it all through like I did a minute ago. Put it through and secure it. And that, I don't really know, yeah, there you go. You can kind of see that it's a bit bulky. I like it to be like that because it just makes it so much easier for me to go, oh yeah, that's the inside. So yeah. You're going to do the exact same thing for this side and then weave in your ends and then you are done. Hurrah! So yeah, I'll probably meet you back here then when it's finished. Okay, here it is. I'm going to have to walk real far back for you to see it, I think. Just can't quite fit myself in the screen. Let's do some catwalks. So yeah, I'm so happy with it. I'm just terrified I'm going to get it dirty at the bottom. But I love it. I love it so much. Could totally add a bit of fringe on it, but then I would get it dirty, wouldn't I? I kind of have to like bend down a bit to talk to the camera. I feel a bit strange now, but here we are. So thank you so much for joining in on this tutorial, and I'll see you again soon with another one. Bye!